y'all, welcome back. I am T, and if you've never been here before, I'm gonna be reading creepy stories off the internet. So if you like to get creeped out, stay tuned. Before we get into it though, if you want to follow me on my social medias, it will be linked in the description. All right, let's get into this first story though. I finally experienced a glitch. At least I think it was, because this cannot be explained. So I ordered some jewelry off of Amazon, and when I got the jewelry, it was way too small. So I needed to return them. So my boyfriend put it in a package, folded it in a bag, and put it in the trunk of my car so I wouldn't forget to return it to UPS. The next day, I returned it with a few other things that needed to be returned as well. I got the email saying it had been returned and the refund was on the way. Here's the crazy part. Yesterday, a week after we returned it, my boyfriend was cleaning out the car, and you wouldn't believe what he found. It was the package, folded up in the exact same spot that he put it in a week ago, in the trunk. The jewelry was in the bag and everything, but what's even crazier is the package had a return label that UPS printed out and placed on it. After he found that in the trunk, he came and asked me, was the package returned back to sender, or did you just leave it in the trunk? I also have been grocery shopping and running errands all week. If the package was in the trunk, I definitely would have seen it. So we're still rubbing our heads thinking, how could this have happened? There's no way I would have missed seeing this in the trunk all week. And there's no way I would have brought it back to the trunk after returning it on accident. I still ended up getting my refund, and Amazon doesn't refund until they actually receive the package, or at least have confirmation that it's been sent out by UPS. So now I have a piece of jewelry that I don't want because apparently the universe or a glitch wants me to have it. I went to do laundry around 2 a.m. with my oldest son. We put the laundry in and we went to McDonald's drive-thru to get something to drink. The drive-thru was packed with about 5 or 6 cars ahead of us. I noticed that one of the cars was moving forward, and it had been like that for 5 minutes. So I decided to go around the car in front of me and go to the next drive-thru lane, the second lane, because McDonald's always have 2 lanes. As I'm pulling around, I'm looking at them. I'm looking into their car, and I see that they're not actually moving. I kid you not, both people in the car, the driver and passenger, looked unalive. Heads tilted all the way back, eyes shut, not moving, just straight unalive. I freaked out and I tried to pull out of the drive-thru entirely, going around other cars just to get out of there. And the next car I passed, all of the passengers looked the same exact way. Unalive, heads tilted back, eyes shut. I started panicking, thinking they were all shot or something. Somebody unalived them, and they're about to come unalive me. I hit the gas, and I got out of there as quick as I could. My son called 911. We're both freaking out. I told them what happened, and they sent an officer to check out the scene. A few minutes later, the cops called us back and said everything at McDonald's was fine. Mind you, my son saw it too. We both saw the car in front of us, and the people looked unalive. It was absolutely terrifying, to say the least. I literally looked at each and every one of those people. It looked like one of those rapture movies or the end of the world type of movies. Needless to say, I cannot wrap my head around what we saw or why we saw it. I'm still scared and I can't get over it. I don't know about that. Before making an offer on our house, my husband and I went for a viewing with our 3-year-old daughter, whom we left with the babysitter the first time we saw the house. As we walked in, I told her she could choose the bedroom she wanted. She said, "I want the dinosaur room," and ran upstairs. Okay, 3-year-olds say random stuff. A moment later, she calls out, "Here it is." And sure enough, the closet of the bedroom she picked was covered in dinosaur stickers. My husband, the realtor, and I were all freaked out. The kid acted like she knew the stickers were there already, but none of us remembered seeing them before, and we certainly hadn't talked about them. The house was vacant and immaculately clean. It was an estate sale, so they left the stickers up. What? Me, y'all, I believe everything, okay? And kids are definitely seers because they're more open-minded, so possibly. So this took place circa 2002. I was about 8 years old at the time. Me, my dad, and stepmom at the time were on our way from California to Tennessee by plane. Once we landed, we got off the plane and we waited for my dad to turn his phone on to call my aunt, who was waiting for us at the airport. We waited for a couple of minutes and my dad had tons of missed calls from my aunt freaking out about where we were. He called her back and she's asking us where have we been. She says they've been waiting for us for 2 hours. We were pretty confused because our flight had got there in a normal amount of time without delays. But somehow, we lost 2.5 hours of our time, aside from the time change from California to Tennessee. Once we met up with them down at baggage claims, our carousel was completely empty of luggage and other passengers as well. We had to pick up our baggage from somewhere else because they had been unclaimed for too long. We still didn't know what happened or how we lost this much time. It felt very weird in a surreal way. For the rest of the night, we couldn't wrap our heads around it. Me personally, I read somewhere when you lose time, you're slipping in and out of other dimensions, so maybe they possibly shifted. It's not too far off. When I was little, my parents had this painting of a soldier in a uniform. I could see it from my bed when the door was cracked. Several times I saw the man in the painting move his head and look at me. The scariest experience was after I begged my parents to get rid of the painting, my dad calmed me down and I started to drift off to sleep. But I had a bad feeling, the one where you know you're being watched. When I opened my eyes, and I could never ever forget this, the soldier in the painting turned his head and smiled. The next day, my dad threw the painting away. Years later, my dad told me he had heard me moving around in my bed, and he was looking down the hall trying to decide if he should go check on me again. While glancing down the hall, he saw the man in the painting turn his head and smile. He never mentioned that to me. The only thing we could chalk it up to was paranormal activity. Yeah, that painting gotta go for sure. This is without a doubt the scariest and most unexplainable thing that has happened to me. One Saturday night several months ago, I attended a birthday party at a friend's house. There were about 40 people in attendance. It was split between the basement and the main floor. I didn't go down to the basement, not even once, because the music down there was extremely loud, which I hated. And most of my friends were on the main floor anyway. My best friend had given me a ride to the party, and we stayed together the whole time and the whole night. A few days later, I ran into a distant friend of mine from school. They had also been in attendance at this party. He took out his phone and started showing me some of the photos he had taken that night. He got to one that showed him and a girl posing for the camera in the basement, with me standing in the background, smiling and looking in the direction of the camera, but not quite at the camera. I was obviously freaked out, and I told him I hadn't even been in the basement. He told me he had seen me down there for several minutes, and he said he tried to say hello, but I had seemed distant and distracted. I called my best friend, and she confirmed that I had been down there the entire night. I was not drunk. I was not drugged. I drank nothing all night but a bottled water I had brought with me. To this day, when I think about that picture, it scares the crap out of me. There must have been another me there in that basement. Doppelganger. Immediately doppelganger. Last spring, when my son was 3 years old, we drove by a big white church. The church is one that we pass often driving around town. It is also the place of his current preschool, but at the time he had attended a different preschool and never stepped foot in that church. So we drove by it one day and he said, "Oh, there's the church that I ate cereal in." My husband and I looked at each other and I said, "What do you mean? We've never been in there before." We asked some additional questions, but he didn't really answer. However, he was very adamant that he had been eating cereal in that church before. This happened during a difficult time in our life. My father-in-law was on hospice and he was dying of cancer. So for weeks we were up back and forth to my in-laws' house, and this church was along that route. He said it a few more times and then he never mentioned it again. Fast forward to today. He currently attends that church because it's his new preschool. He has been going since September and he loves it. It is a Christian church, although we aren't too religious. So anyway, I got a monthly newsletter from the church and it mentioned that next month is Pajamas Day. It's where the kids can wear their pajamas and eat cereal. I told my son and I asked if he remembered eating cereal there before, and he said no. He had no recollection of ever saying that he did that. Is there an explanation to this? It gives me chills when I think about it. Immediately he can see the future. Immediately. Or he had a dream about it. Either way, he saw the future. I told y'all, kids are seers. This just happened to my fiance and we're a little freaked out. He couldn't find his phone and I offered to call it for him. When he found his phone, he answered it on speaker and said hello while right next to me. I answered with a hello too. But when I heard the voice coming from his phone, it was clearly me saying, hey. I know that I answered and I just said hello in a playful tone. We looked at each other and I ended the call. We couldn't come up with a rational explanation. I mean, it doesn't mean there isn't one, we just couldn't think of one. It made me feel like one of those scenes in a horror movie where the characters are standing right in front of a mirror and their reflection doesn't match the movements that they're making. This story doesn't have to do with me, but it's more so my mom's story. This happened on Friday. I was walking home from school, and everybody loves that feeling of Friday. It's like you're done with the week's crap and you're ready for the weekend. Once I got home, I left my backpack on the couch. My mom had a shocked look on her face. I asked her what was wrong. She said, I picked you up early for a dental appointment, but now you're here? I was not just spooked, I was a little confused. I gave her a hug and went to grab my backpack off the couch where I left it. When I walked over to grab it, it was not there. Keep in mind, there was no one else in the house but us. I asked my mom if she moved it. She hadn't. After looking for a while, I found it in the passenger seat of my mom's car. I felt confusion and shock at the same time. I walked home. There's no way it could have just teleported in her car like that. I still have no idea how it got there. This is a relatively short story, but it still creeps me out to this day because of how certain I am of it. So I was working in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It was a travel job where I would stay in hotels throughout the week and then travel home for the weekend. I got off at 5 p.m. per usual, and before I got on the Pittsburgh Turnpike, I stopped at a mom and pop style gas station to fuel up for my trip home. I got my gas, I went in and paid for it, then I headed for the Turnpike. I drove maybe 2.5 hours before I decided I was going to pull off and get a quick bite to eat and use the restroom. I punched in my GPS to the nearest gas station and I headed to it, and I swear to God, I pulled up to the exact same mom and pop gas station I had just went to 2 hours prior. I walked in to get a burger and I almost fell over. I was so freaked out. I finished up at the gas station, walked out to the truck, and my GPS reflected that I was in the same spot. Those 2.5 hours that I had just drove was completely erased. It was just after 7 and I should have been halfway home already. The only logic I have is that I fell asleep at the gas station, but surely someone would have woke me up if that was the case. I remember doing the drive and I also remember getting the gas. And the amount of gas that I had in my truck reflected that I had been driving for over 2 hours. It's the only glitch in the Matrix that still baffles me to this day. So this is just a bit of background. No serious mental health issues or other problems other than some mild anxiety and depression. I take 25 milligrams of Zoloft, so I don't think I'm tripping or hallucinating when I tell you this. This morning, I woke up for work and left a little earlier than usual because I woke up before my alarm went off. I filled my water bottle, grabbed my access card for work, and I got in my car to drive off. My commute is the same every single day. It's a 40-minute commute, mostly the interstate, and there's always traffic. While my car is warming up, I picked up an album to listen to for the drive. I usually make it about 3/4 of the way through the album before I actually get to work. Every day is a new album. I drove to work and I remember being cut off. I remember being in a standstill of traffic towards my exit. I remember the album I listened to. I even remember responding to a text message using Siri. I remember seeing a type of car that I've seen before in the US. I remember thinking to myself, I'm glad it's not a hot day, while my hands were gripping the wheel 10 and 2. So I get to work and I pull into the same parking space that I do every day. I step out of my car and lo and behold, I'm still in front of my apartment building. 40 minutes later, almost done with the album. What is going on? Where did I go? One night I was scrolling on my Instagram feed. Not sure why I felt like doing that, but I was actually weirdly compelled to. I came across a selfie of myself where I had a very strange and unattractive smile. It was no likes on it, and most of my photos had around 50 to 80 likes since my friends are active on it. I don't remember taking it or posting it, but the date was stamped a week before. That picture spooked me so bad I had to delete it off my page. I did not even see a copy of it in my camera roll. That happened 7 years ago and I still think about it. What happened? Was that even me? So that was the last story, y'all. I hope y'all like this video. If you enjoy being creeped out, please let me know by liking the video, okay? Share it with your friends. Let me know which story was your favorite in the comments. We can talk about it there. Give me your theories about what you think happened, because I love to discuss things like this. It's my favorite topic, okay? Anyway, y'all already know the vibes. Thank you so much for tuning in. I love y'all so much. And I'm gonna see y'all in the next one. Bye. That's crazy. I can't even lie. For me, immediately, parallel universe. You answered, but the other you said, hey. Meanwhile, you, hello. I don't know. That's a little creepy though. That's a little creepy. But stuff like that happens all the time. I've had similar situations like that happen to me. Listen, immediately you switched realities. Like you shifted a little bit. It be the subtle changes or like the small decisions that you make that you don't think will affect anything. Baby, let me tell you. They smoking a cigarette and it's getting in my house because I got the door open. That story really, I noticed a lot of these are like, I was going somewhere and then I didn't go anywhere type of glitches. That's weird. How does that happen? Yeah, that painting gotta go for sure. And you ain't staying in this house. No. I be trying not to crack jokes because I be trying to make these videos spooky, but it's like, I was just naturally, I don't take things serious. Like if something like that happened to me, I'm gonna be cracking jokes with that painting. Like, yeah, turn to the left, now turn to the right, do the hokey pokey, do it all night. I don't know. Me and that painting finna have fun, okay? Let me get creepy again.